Hi, I'm Bill Babcock with Expert Amateur. My solar container experiment's doing exactly what I intended to do. It's teaching me how modern solar power systems work. But rapid shutdown devices and the requirements of NEC 690.12 and UL 3741 have me stumped. The requirements seem kind of bizarre. I'm not going to keep saying UL 3741 and NEC 690.12. I'm just going to call this stuff RSD, though actually there are more things in play than just equipment to shut PV panels down. But just to clarify, NEC 690.12 is the code, and UL 3741 is the standard that equipment must meet to satisfy the code. So RSD is justified as a way to prevent shock hazards to firefighters. It honestly feels somewhat more like a power play for manufacturers of microinverters and some other types of rooftop equipment to block competition. When the code was first developed in 2014, there wasn't really much proof that firefighters were endangered by PV panels on a roof. There still isn't a lot of proof, and what experimental and empirical evidence there is seems a little sketchy. And it looks like it was created after the fact to justify the rules. But I'm not going to engage in conspiracy theories beyond just that statement. I don't have the kind of knowledge or expertise I'd need about the history and the technical analysis of the issues to feel comfortable saying much more than that. So I'm just going to look at the ramifications and solutions from a DIY perspective. I think professional installers know how to deal with this, and they've got solutions that they're comfortable with. But I don't think many DIY folks would say they really understand it. Most would say it's nonsense. Don't put panels on your roof. Use ground mounts, because if you're using ground mounts, you're exempt. Mostly, maybe. But there's plenty of people that don't have the space or the capability to do ground mounts. So there's a lot of DIY folks that are looking at rooftop. So let's start with the basic electrical requirements to meet code. If you have PV panels mounted on your roofs, they need to have rapid shutdown equipment that meets two criteria. One, the RSD has to reduce the voltage of the conductors within the array boundary, which is an imaginary line drawn around the array about a foot away from the outside panels, to less than 80 volts within 30 seconds of RSD initiation. Criteria 2 is the RSD must reduce the voltage of conductors outside the array boundary to 30 volts within 30 seconds of RSD initiation. How do you reduce the voltage of a series string of panels below 80 volts? Simply cutting the connection between the array, the PV array, and the solar controllers will actually increase the voltage inside the boundary. As long as there's sunshine, there'll be voltage on the conductors. The only practical way, other than microinverters, to meet the electrical requirements is to have devices that interrupt the interconnection of the conductors in the series string. So that means devices mounted underneath panels that are going to bake and freeze. And it's going to be more wiring, more connectors, more complexity, more elements to fail or fault. There are solutions. They exist as long as you're willing to pay for them. They come in various flavors, but the most common devices are called module level power electronics, or MLPE. And you need one MLPE per module, more or less, for about $50 a piece, which is not as spendy as $250 for microinverters, But, you know, if you got 40 panels, that's $2,000. My direct experience with inverters, which is relevant because they're kind of like MLPEs in the way they're connected and used, is not good. The 32 first generation microinverters that we had installed here in Maui didn't last for even half of the 25-year warranty period. They started failing at year 9, and by year 10, they were all dead. The manufacturer didn't have any first-gen microinverters to replace them with. The only replacement they offered was a discounted upgrade. So yeah, I got to pay for a replacement that should have theoretically been, or certainly been covered under warranty. The original installation company had gone out of business, like 90% of solar installers from that era did, and for all I know, still do. So there was no company willing to do the replacement on the ground mount, which is admittedly on some pretty steep ground. So I had to do it myself. And because it was a discounted upgrade, there was no willingness to pay for the labor, even if I could find someone to do it. So you might understand why I'm skeptical of the 25-year warranty on MLPEs. So the addition of a device under each panel, purely for safety reasons, is a tough sell. But MLPEs can also be module level optimizers. They can provide maximum power point tracking at the individual panel level, which is theoretically and perhaps practically superior to array level MPPT, because it can do a little more precise job of adjusting the voltage and current output to meet the environmental variations like shading or sun angle. And module level MPPT also accommodates mismatches in the panels. So you don't have to be as concerned about that as you would be in a string inverter or a series string leading into a modern hybrid inverter. So for rooftop installations, you have to deal with the roof you have. If you have space, a ground mount can be oriented optimally. You can put it in places with no shading. But roofs are what you got. So you got to accommodate it. So, and MLPEs, like microinverters, can make the best of that inherently limited situation. Salespeople say that MLPEs increase rooftop solar production by 20 to 35%, which I don't believe. But definitely it provides a more flexible design solution because you can accommodate different orientations and shading. And they obviously comply with RSD requirements, so, so there's some value there. But sticking 40 of any kind of electronic devices under panels is a potential maintenance nightmare. So their claim that it's because it's distributed, it's the maintenance is better is kind of ridiculous to me. So the real benefit of MLPEs is that they can meet RSD requirements. But now they're not the only way to meet the requirements. There are some racking systems that are now certified as 3741 compliant. The idea is the firefighters are exposed to conductors when the conductors aren't managed well. So this little exemption is all about cable management. If the cables are properly tucked away and secured, and they can't make contact with the frame, the likelihood that a firefighter would be exposed to potentially fatal voltage while they're fighting a roof fire is might be reasonably well met by that. I'm not sure how criteria 2 for array voltage outside the array boundary gets met. Maybe steel conduit takes care of that. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that some of the industry players who make the equipment that directly meets the voltage requirements for 3741 don't care for these certifications. I've got a link in the video description for an article written by an engineer from Solar Edge that just lit up all my bullshit detectors. So premium racking and careful energy management does seem like it makes good sense. But it also makes it seem like this whole issue is kind of arbitrary, and not as scientific or logical as you might hope. But you know, but I don't know. It might be well thought out and experimentally verified. There's no way for me to really tell without becoming more of an expert on these codes than just reading them, which isn't going to happen. First of all, I'm late to the party. Secondly, for me, this is all moot. The roof on my shop could be a huge solar resource if I didn't mind sticking holes in it. And if it wasn't a 15-year-old roof that might need replacement just as I finished putting panels on it. So that's not going to happen. And then here at our house in Maui, we're contemplating a few more panels, but the roof here is this beautiful blue ceramic roof that's fragile for people stepping on it or drilling holes in it or anything like that. So, and I've got plenty of room for more ground mounts. And my wife would shoot me if I touched the roof, so that's not happening. But there is a guy on the internet, a YouTube guy, who calls himself Derek Solar Boy, and he knows a heck of a lot more about this than I do, and he seems very excited about the changes to UL 3741. So if you're contemplating rooftop solar, his videos are definitely worth watching, and they're pretty entertaining. He's an interesting character. I could be misreading the code or looking at the wrong explanations of it, or just simply misunderstanding what I've read. So I'm not an expert on how this stuff applies. I've read as much as I needed to tell me I don't want to be putting anything on a roof. I'd love to hear your comments and corrections about this issue. I might not respond to everything, but I really do read every comment, and I hope you found this useful. I expect the comments will be more fun than the video, so I'm looking forward to that. And so we'll have a bunch more videos coming up shortly. Most of them kind of focused on the EG4 equipment, batteries, hybrid inverters, other equipment like that. But I'll be looking at some other things too, and general technical issues. All of these videos that I'm making are going to have a technical focus. I am not looking to make entertaining videos. I'm looking to just explore technical issues. So if that's your bag, then please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.